Hey guys, it's Piper, and I am coming out of the closet in this video, and, yeah, it's a little overdue. I mean, Pride Month ends, like, today, but here it is anyway. Okay. Well, I used to think I'd never come out of the closet, at least not on the internet. Up until now, I've just identified as queer and left it as ambiguous as possible, for the most part, but I've been struggling with gender identity my whole life, and also my sexuality since I turned 12. I wasn't going to tell this story until later, but hey, it's Pride Month, and the more people who come out of the closet, the stronger we are. There you go. I guess I'll start from the beginning. I started questioning my gender when I was about 6 years old, but I didn't have the vocabulary to express how I was feeling. All I knew for sure was that I was absolutely not a girl, but everybody treated me like one. I played with toys that were stereotypically for boys, watched TV shows that were usually geared toward boys. I hung out with boys, and I would have worn boys' clothes if they let me. I begged my parents to let me cut my hair short, almost like a boy's, but not quite, but they refused, just like they refused to let me wear boys' clothes. I kept looking for validation in girls and women who engaged in traditionally masculine activities, as if that was somehow permission for me to be myself. But I always knew there was something different about them, subtly different, because they were girls. I identified as a tomboy when my grandmother told me what one was. It let people know, at least, that I didn't like girly things, so they'd stop buying me dolls and dresses and crap. It was an understatement, and I didn't like that it had the word boy in it, since I wasn't one of those either, and I read everything very literally. But, you know, I didn't know any better words at the time. I wasn't a girl at all. I was very adamant about that, which angered my mother especially. I'd have long fights with her over being forced to wear dresses when I wasn't a girl, being told to sit like a lady when I wasn't a girl. I was harassed a lot by my family for playing video games, which were boys, Legos, which were for boys, and climbing trees, which was somehow also for boys. Oh no. God forbid I get a little dirty and play in the mud. Fuck you, Mom. That mudslide was awesome. Okay. It wasn't just my family pressuring me to be a girl, though. I once had a teacher pull me aside and force me to hang out with other girls because she was disturbed that I only had male friends and acted like I had no friends at all. To be fair, she may have thought my friendship with them didn't mean much because I almost never spoke, so I wrote a letter to her saying that all of those boys were my friends and I wasn't interested in making friends with the girls except for the one tomboy friend I had who I saw after school 4 days a week. The teacher accepted it, perhaps realizing that I was nonverbal to an extent and didn't like talking, period. I mean, I did hand her a letter instead of talking to her. Or maybe she just gave up since it's hard to communicate with somebody who doesn't talk, so, you know, she just read it, told me okay, and to sit down, you know, take my seat. That's just one thing, though. Teachers wouldn't let me sit with the boys on the bus after a point. When they divided boys and girls, I just never knew where to stand. The reason they wouldn't let me sit with the boys on the bus was because they were afraid that I would kiss one of them. Yes, elementary school. I wish I was kidding. Like, and they say they don't try to sexualize young girls or try to enforce heterosexuality on them or anything like that, and here they were. They just decided I was a girl, which is a problem in itself, and decided that if I sat next to a boy, I would kiss him. That's disgusting. But anyway, and with all that pressure for everyone to behave the way they wanted me to, I just started to wish I was born a boy. Boys didn't have those problems, or at least that's what I thought. Boys could do whatever they wanted, and it wasn't fair that they got to have all the fun. So I was kinda jealous. And after a while, when I was about 8, I finally managed to articulate it, not with words, but with feelings. I was not a girl, but I also didn't want to be a boy. The only reason I wished I was a boy was so other people would get off my ass and let me be me. But I was something else, something that was in between the two. The word I was looking for was androgynous. Of course, I was a child. I didn't know words like androgynous. I tried my best to explain it to my grandmother, since I trusted her the most and she didn't hound me as much as my mother did, though she did occasionally. My grandmother told me that she was a tomboy too, but that all of that would change when I was about 14 years old. She said something would happen, and I'd feel like a girl. I thought she was full of shit, but then that something turned out to be my period. I wish they'd have told me about that. Anyway, and after that, I started wearing makeup. I got into goth fashion, which became my special interest, and I felt this crushing need to be beautiful, because I felt that in order to be successful as a girl, I would have to be beautiful, you know. Here's where it gets weird. I wasn't like that all the time. I would say about 2/3 of the time I felt girly, though not the kind of girly girl I feared I would become. But basically, I loved lace and bows, but I also still loved video games. So I was still me. I recognized that. But what I didn't understand was why I always felt like there were two people inside of me. I sometimes felt the way a girl was supposed to feel. I was catty, I wore too much makeup, I stuffed my bra. I wasn't just an awkward ginger kid anymore. I was a hot redhead and I got lots of attention from boys. I rejected all of them and protected my virginity like a quote-unquote good girl should do. And I was a wonderful girl, aside from dressing like a goth. Nobody liked that. Mostly people were just glad that I wasn't going through my quote-unquote boy phase, as they called it. But other times I insisted on wearing boxer shorts, I didn't tell them, and wished I could just cut off my breasts. I even noticed differences in my handwriting and the way I sat. I was just like a totally different person. Like, my androgyny was separate from the girl everybody knew and most people loved, but also a lot of people hated. I started researching psychology because I was worried that I had some sort of mental disorder. First, I researched multiple personality disorder, now called dissociative identity disorder, nearly every day after I got home from school. I was, however, disqualified from that diagnosis because I did not dissociate. That's how multiple personalities work. I later read Emily Autumn's autobiographical book, The Asylum for Wayward Victorian Girls, and that's when I realized I had bipolar disorder. At first, I was satisfied with this explanation of my identity disturbances because, you know, you switch back and forth between depression and either mania or hypomania, depending on where you're at. But my personality shifted far too often for it to just be depressed me and manic me. My cycles shifted every 3 to 6 months usually, with my most recent depressive phase lasting over a year, but I'm also in a mixed features kind of state right now, but that's a story for another video. Back then, I was just wondering, why did some days I want to dress like a boy, whereas other times I was comfortable with and even arrogant about my own body? By the time I reached my sophomore year in college, maybe it was because of hormones or something, but I was androgynous more often than feminine. Let's just say 60% of the time I was androgynous. I still loved goth fashion, but after recovering from my eating disorder, most of those clothes didn't fit well anymore. I don't know how much weight I gained, but I also built up a lot of muscle in that time, especially in my legs, and my tits, they went from an A cup to a 28D. So it was like my body finally had enough energy to hit puberty. Goth fashion was just too expensive though, and I couldn't sew for shit. Between that and my androgynous personality becoming more dominant than my female personality, all of my old friends from high school started complaining that I was different. I looked different. I acted different. They called me fake and said they didn't want to be around me anymore. And after that, I was left with no friends. But I noticed too that I was different, and I wanted to know why. And at first I just accepted their explanation. I just started to think I was fake. And that, of course, really hurt my self-image. But after that, my hormones, they started to get super chill. And then I got super chill. Assuming this is hormone related. I went through some really hard stuff, so I mean like chill considering, but okay, I'm rambling. I was a girl about 30% of the time until I had a nervous breakdown in 2015, a year that I barely remember because I was constantly drunk and high. I know I was a girl often enough to blow like $2,000 on clothes and accessory and then the rest on liquor and shit like that. And basically, I thought if I could make myself perfect, maybe someone would love me. But after cleaning up my act a little bit, I started to feel more masculine again, and I only feel like a girl like maybe 20% of the time. In January 2017, while researching androgynes, since by then I realized I was one, I heard the term gender fluid. At first I was like, man, that sounds like fake as shit. And the thing is, though, it also sounded familiar as shit, and the more I read, the more sense it made. Unfortunately, I had already given myself a female pen name, Piper Sweeney, but I didn't change it because I figured Piper isn't too girly, it's sporty, and it's not like Piper is my legal name or anything like that. So I decided to stay Piper Sweeney. I went to my college's counseling center, and my therapist told me I was non-binary. New vocabulary word for me. Non-binary means someone who has a gender other than male or female. At first, I was happy. It wasn't a disorder, just an uncommon gender identity. I wasn't a freak, just a they/them. But then I noticed how other people felt about it. Not only do so many people think gender fluidity is pure bullshit, but my lifelong identity as an androgyne was also considered fake. My parents didn't accept me and still call me by the girly name they picked out. Worse than other people's perceptions, I realized exactly how much it would cost to transition, since I have no interest in testosterone hormones, since they do things to your lady parts that I don't want done. I'll not go into that, but I would have to rely on like constructive surgery, reconstructive surgery, whatever it's called, and wardrobe to give myself an appearance that wasn't distinctly female. Neither of those things are covered by insurance, so I've gotten to the point where I no longer care about other people's thoughts. Why should I? My identity is about me and no one else, and I couldn't give a fuck about other people. But I'm not kidding when I say I look very feminine, so when people call me she, I kinda get it. I don't like it, but I understand it. Here's where I start talking about my transition plans. I consider myself a trans androgyne, partially because nobody really knows what non-binary means, but everyone knows what androgynous means, mostly, and non-binary would refer to my gender fluidity, but I feel fine when I'm a girl, so I'm not like, I don't consider myself trans non-binary. It's too broad. It's just when I feel androgynous that I can't cope with my girly face or body. Also, trans androgynous rolls off the tongue way better than non-binary trans ever will, sorry. My end goal is just to feel as comfortable as I do when androgynous as I feel when I am feminine. When I accomplish that, I will feel like I have transitioned successfully. My current measurements are 28 double D, a 25-inch waist, and brace yourself, 37-inch hips. Okay, that is a lot of ass for someone my size. I mean, it's also a lot of titty for someone my size, I admit, but man, I'm trying to build more muscle in the future, which requires weight gain, meaning more tits and ass probably, but I also think the extra muscle will make me feel better when masculine, but wouldn't make me feel bad at all when feminine, so that should help. I'll do it when I can afford food anyway. I can barely survive off of what I'm eating now, and I burn a lot of calories in Kung Fu and Tai Chi. As for hair, I've pretty much cut it all off. You know, when I feel feminine, I hate my hair so much. I can't even begin to say how badly I want to cry, like 10 to 20% of the time. I didn't expect that because I look so girly otherwise, but I really hate my hair during those times. So I guess I'll just like buy a wig or so, maybe more. And I think, you know, that way I can always like my hair, or at least feel pretty again. Synthetic hair, of course, maybe it's just the autism, but when I feel other people's hair touching me, I freak out majorly. I hate it. So, I have plenty of clothes for when I'm a girl, obviously, but almost nothing for when I feel like a guy. I am slowly incorporating masculine clothes into my closet. Someday, maybe I'll be able to afford, like, goth fashion again, but I'm not too stressed over it. Goth isn't my identity, after all. It's just a fashion that I really like, and also music that I really like. That doesn't mean nearly as much to me as gender. The major expense will be the surgery. I don't want to say which features I'm looking to change because I don't want anyone to know what I look like, so I'll just put it this way. I'll paint you an image. I am adorable, unfortunately, and I still look 14, but I also have a resting bitch face. So think like angsty teen princess who's still mad that she wasn't prom queen, because I fucking should have been. What, you got a problem with a goth prom queen? I would have been the best. Okay. Alright, back on track. Nothing I do to myself makes me look more ambiguous, no matter if I don't wear any makeup and I can't afford a binder, so anyway, hopefully I can see one doctor for all of the procedures to keep the prices lower and reduce my downtime. But you don't hear about facial masculinization surgery very often because, for the most part, testosterone hormones will make your face look more masculine for you, but like I said, I don't want my lady parts to do the things they do. I'm trying to be not too graphic. I'm sorry. Anyway, I just decided to keep my giant tits for now because boobs are useful for holding pencils and seducing people to get free stuff, and hopefully I can get a binder at some point that won't crush my rib cage. I mean, I don't have one at all, but I definitely don't want my rib cage crushed by anything other than a corset. And I guess my big ass is useful for when I want to like sit on hard surfaces, and meanwhile everyone else is whining that their butt hurts from the concrete. I win. Sorry. I also picked out a unisex name that's sporty feminine but works for a guy too, and I'm not going to change my name until I complete my transition. I'll have to change my ID photo after surgery anyway, so I figured it'd be easier to get both done at the same time. I've estimated the cost of my transition to be about $20,000 to $30,000. That's about as much as most trans people spend on surgeries. I'm not special. But by the time I pay off my student loans, they'll have snowballed to $50,000. So how am I supposed to spend another $30,000 to transition and then also support myself? Anyway, my sexual orientation is a little trickier since I'm not 100% sure. I've rarely been sexually attracted to men, but it has happened in the past. Emotionally, yes, I could and have dated men before, though I've never slept with a man. Women I'm definitely attracted to, and I'm probably more likely to marry a woman than a man, but please do not call me a non-binary lesbian. Lesbians are women who are only attracted to other women. That means any lesbian who's attracted to me sees me as a woman. And I understand that a lesbian might be attracted to me when I'm dressed up like a girl especially, and that's fine, but if they're dating me for only one of my personalities, that kind of sucks for both of us. And it's more likely that they'd see me as a girl all the time, and I'm not 100% okay with dating anyone who sees me as a woman when that's not even my default. I was born in androgyne, and I will die in androgyne, probably. I don't know. Maybe I'll feel like super girly and I'll say something catty and someone will be angry and they'll just shoot me in the forehead and I'll deserve it. So, no, I will not accept the lesbian label. So, Are you non-binary and only attracted to women? Looking for the word for that. I bet you are, so here you go. Repeat after me. Gynephilia. It's a behavioral science term that means attraction to women or femininity, but it doesn't indicate the person's gender, like lesbian does. So I'll say it again. Gynephilia. I'll even link to information on it in the description. Gynephilia. You don't have to call yourself a lesbian anymore. You're welcome, gynephiliacs. Now, anyway, I'm also attracted to certain non-binary identities, and sometimes very rarely to men. Like, I could vlog about every single male celebrity I would possibly do it with, and the video would probably be like 5 to 10 minutes long. For women, it'd take me forever. I'd never finish it. My attraction to men is usually aesthetic and or emotional, so it's rare for me to want to sleep with a man. A femme who was assigned male at birth would probably have better luck with me, as would a biological woman with masculine traits. Sometimes it depends on my mood, really. Maybe that's why I've only ever had an open relationship, so I don't have to tie myself down, you know? And I can, I don't know, sample the gender buffet. What's a not gross way to put that? Experiment, okay? I haven't actually acted on it yet, but I'd like to keep the option open, you know? Monogamy is not for everyone. And there are so many different genders out there, depending on who you ask, that I wouldn't be able to tell you how many different genders I'm attracted to, because no one can agree how many genders there are. So I guess I'll just play it by ear. And personality has a lot to do with it, so it's not just looks. So anyway, I never really picked an identity other than trans, androgynous, and gender fluid. Sexuality isn't as important to me as gender is. I could go with bisexual because it's easy and it doesn't exclude anyone who doesn't think about it too hard, but it's not exactly right. And a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus QI queer people think about gender a lot more than me. I don't actually know that much about it. I'm new. Forgive me. At least I brought you gynephilia. Give me a break. I'm trying my best. Anyway, polysexual would probably be the most accurate orientation for me, but nobody really knows what the fuck that means. I mean, poly isn't the thing you hear about very often. Most people talk about pansexual, not polysexual. Now, if someone asks me about my identity, I want the information to be as easy to understand as possible, so I don't have to give people a vocabulary lesson, partially because I'm afraid I'll get it wrong and I'll just confuse them more. So if somebody asked, I'd probably just say, I like women and other androgynous people, but sometimes I'll date a guy if I feel an emotional connection. Which, spoiler alert, has only happened like twice. So here's your answer, guys. I am a trans androgyne, I am gender fluid, and I'm poly. And I suppose that's it. How long have I been talking? Holy shit, it's been like 30 minutes. I'm gonna have to crop stuff out. Oh my god. Please rate and subscribe, and forgive me for talking your ear off. Bye.